Coming up on Transformers University, the Decepticons come to Hollywood to become TV and movie stars while an Autobot finds fame under the big top. Plus, we'll discover that Master Force isn't the only Transformers series obsessed with biker gangs. All that and more right now on Transformers University. Hello, my friend, and welcome to episode number 149 of Transformers University. I am your host, Anthony Brucali, owner, operator, and man behind TFU.INFO, the website, the toy archive, this podcast, TFU News and Views podcast, and oh so much more. And like I said, I want to welcome you to episode 149. We have an exciting episode lined up for you. We're going to talk Marvel Comics once again, issues 44, 45, 46, and 47. But before we dive in, I do want to give a special shout out to our Patreon supporters. My dear students over at Patreon, your contributions help make this podcast possible. If you're not a member yet, consider joining us at patreon.com/TFU.INFO. That's patreon.com/TFU.INFO, all one word. Over there, you can join our community. You can get exclusive posts from me, exclusive podcasts, all sorts of exclusive and special things. We're really trying to build a fun and knowledgeable Transformer fan community over there. And of course, I want to thank our senior and up level patrons. They are
Alex Mendoza, Jay Soups, Paul Heel, Eric Sire, John Forex Levingood, and Sean Hamilton.
And I want to thank my special patrons once again. This show could not be possible without you. And I do implore you, if you want to sign up, patreon.com/TFU.INFO. For as little as $1 a month, you can be part of the Patreon. And it would mean a lot to me if you did. Now, last time on this show, last time we covered Marvel US was in episode 141. So not too long ago, but a little bit back. So we brought you up to issue 43 over there. And today we will continue our journey with issue 44. Issue 44 is entitled The Cosmic Carnival. It's written by Bob Budiansky with guest penciler Frank Springer and guest inker Danny Bulanaga. Colors by Nell Yomtov, letters by Bill Oakley, edits by Don Daly. The cover is by Frank Springer with inks by Dave Hunt and features Optimus Prime in cab mode and Skylynx in a rare Lynx mode appearance, battling it out at a carnival. Interesting to note here is that the UK printing of the story, which appeared in issues 178 and 179 of the Marvel UK run, each had their own unique cover, which is kind of rare for Marvel US books being printed in the UK. And it's funny, I'm really kind of talking about this for the first time on the podcast. I'm not entirely sure the last couple of times we covered Marvel if those books had special covers in the UK. But from here on out, we'll try to make sure we make note of that. Now, it's interesting to note that this cover, issue 178, features Skylynx once again in a rare Lynx mode appearance, performing tricks like a circus lion. And that one is drawn by Stephen Baskerville. On issue 179 shows Power Master Optimus Prime, who is technically in this issue, but we don't really see him in Power Master mode. And he is being attacked by some sort of lizard. And it's got this humorous word bubble about the lizard's bad breath and his need for mouthwash. And that one was done by Jerry Paris. So picture this. Optimus Prime and the crew of the Steel Haven are cruising back to Earth when their recap of the previous bunch of issues gets hit with Papa Bad for the Cosmic Carnival. And there's no skip button, not even after 5 seconds. They spot Skylynx among the attractions, and you know what? Optimus Prime's like, we gotta go and help. His curiosity is piqued, and they're off to the carnival. Once there, Prime and Goldbug find the Earth Kids that we have seen before, the space hikers that we saw back in issue 36. And they're trapped as part of the sideshow. They have a handler who's a human named Burko, and he takes Optimus and Goldbug to the carnival boss, Big Top. It turns out the kids and Skylynx are indentured servants working off a debt to the carnival. Big Top, not to be confused with Big Top Pee-wee, Big Top gives Optimus Prime and Goldbug passes to the main event, where they can see Skylynx perform. And after the show, Skylynx explains to Prime and Goldbug his predicament. They've been stuck at the carnival because they couldn't pay for their visit because Skylynx took them there to entertain the children. And we also find out that the kids' cell has a bomb inside, so they are not allowed to escape. So from here, Prime and Goldbug are stumped, right? They don't know how to break the contract, and they go and say goodbye to the children. Burko is there, and he reveals that he used to be a captive, And Optimus actually offers him a chance to come back with them if he helps the kids escape. And Berko, touched by Optimus Prime's offer, decides to take him up on it and decides to help. Now, back under the lights of the Big Top, Optimus Prime and Skylynx plan their escape, and they end up facing off against Carnival aliens and Rorza, the rocket cycle racer from Rigel 3. Yes, that is the guy's name. He's a guy on a motorcycle, which is a theme through some of these issues. And then meanwhile, Goldbug and Berko free the kids and have a battle with Big Top, the big boss. Goldbug ends up trapping him in the kid's cage, turning him into the newest Sideshow edition. The enemies are vanquished, the villains are taught a lesson, and our heroes return to the Steel Haven, leaving the carnival behind. And I would say this story begins a 3-issue arc of relatively standalone stories. And I know we're talking 4 issues, and I would say that 4th one kind of toes the line a little bit between the two. Now, I'm glad to see the kids, really, especially Daisy, the teddy bear, and I'm glad they're okay. This run of the series is fairly unique. As we can tell, Budiansky is getting a bit bored with Transformers stories, or at least it seems like the way to me. So he's framing them up as comic book stories, right? Like, you could replace the Transformers in this story with, like, the Fantastic Four, and it's still, like, a valid, pretty good comic story. And these are like these one-off interactions with other life forms around the universe. And it kind of harkens back to the beginning of the series, much like, say, way back in issue 13, where Megatron was trapped in gun mode and he was the gun for an up-and-coming gangster. And we covered that one back in episode 30 of this podcast, if you want to go check it out. Now, moving on to issue 45, we're going to head to Hollywood. Now, the creative team for this issue remains mostly the same. Jose Delbo and Dave Hunt return as the main pencils and inks, respectively, and the cover features Circuit Breaker as she fights Skullgrin's outer shell. This is one of the more recognizable covers from this middle era of Marvel US Transformers. And it's one of the few times like a Pretender gets top billing. It's also one of the few times in all of G1 where a Pretender gets some fairly deep characterization. And pencils for this cover are by Bob Budiansky himself, with Dave Hunt doing the inks. Now, again, both UK parts of the story, published in issues 190, 191, have unique covers. Issue 190 has Circuit Breaker bristling at a movie poster. How dare Skullgrin have a movie poster? And this has art by Stephen Baskerville. Issue 191 shows Skullgrin fighting his own shell. So the shell and the inner robot kind of characterized Skullgrin's inner torment, I guess. And this one's by art by Stephen Baskerville and Art Wetherell. Now, this is Wetherell's first appearance on a Transformers book. We'll delve a little bit into his career in a future episode when we talk more Marvel UK, because that's really where it's more appropriate. Now, we open the set of this like B-movie, terrible alien monster flick, and after a special effects issue with an animatronic delays the film for like weeks, the director, Raleigh Friendly, is desperate for a new hit. And that's where PR guy and all-around PR guru Mitch Kino comes in. They watch the news as Skylynx returns to Earth with the space hikers. And in typical Skylynx fashion, he's happy to take questions from the media because Skylynx is kind of a ham. But eventually leads to him being attacked by members of the crowd who are just anti-robot, and he flees. Kino sees the value in robot hype, right? Because like this will make press regardless of what they do. And he has heard about this Bigfoot sighting in North Carolina and recommends to Raleigh that they should check it out. So Raleigh, along with his crew and the stars of the film, Jake Colton and Carissa Carr, head to North Carolina and search for Bigfoot. And I say that in air quotes because they find Skullgrin.
I think Bigfoot is blurry. That's the problem. It's not the photographer's fault. Bigfoot is blurry. And that's extra scary to me because there's a large, out-of-focus monster roaming the countryside.
I also find it weird that in this like weird scouting for something real, he brings his stars with him. But it's actually because he wants to film them as it happens. But instead of a fight, Raleigh offers Skullgrin a movie deal. Skullgrin agrees because he is on a mission from Scorponok to find energy, and he figures that if Raleigh pays him in fuel, he will complete his mission for the Decepticons. And it turns out Skullgrin becomes a Hollywood sensation. Scores cover appearances on all the major magazines of the 80s like Time and People, and then things end up heating up at a shoot at the Grand Canyon. Carissa and Skullgrin, they've kind of formed a friendship, and they end up going off to talk between takes, and she reveals her real name and her life before being in the movies. Skullgrin also confesses too, like literally coming out of his shell and showing her his inner robot. Now, elsewhere, Circuit Breaker, disguised as a fan, sees this and attacks him. Skullgrin learns that Carissa is the one who told the fan, Circuit Breaker, where he would be. In the attack, Carissa is about to fall to her death off the side of a mountain, and Skullgrin, feeling betrayed, is willing just to, let it happen, because he is kind of a Decepticon, right? But Circuit Breaker actually chimes in here and has a confession of her own, acknowledging that she tricked Carissa. With that knowledge in hand, Skullgrin decides to save Carissa, all while Raleigh's cameras are rolling, to the point where he offers Circuit Breaker a starring role in his film. Circuit Breaker is disgusted with Raleigh's greed, ends up destroying all of his equipment, frying it with her electrical powers, destroying all the film and everything in it, and leaves Skullgrin injured, but alive. And again, this story is a bit of standalone, right? It highlights Budiansky's skill as a comic writer. Here's a very skilled comic writer. This story works as if it isn't Transformers, just like I said before, right? If this is The Thing and the Fantastic Four, if this is Man-Thing, even giant-sized Man-Thing, this story still works, right? It even works if it was actually Bigfoot. And oddly enough, like, the tale of this story is very much kind of a riff on the original King Kong film.
Well, Denham, the airplane's got him. Oh, no. It wasn't the airplanes. It was beauty killed the beast.
And with that, we will wrap up these two stories. We still got 2 more books to cover, and we'll do it right after this.
Hey, want to help out this podcast or the website TFU.INFO? There's a number of ways you can do it. Let me tell you how. You can help us directly by joining our Patreon and enrolling as a student at Transformers University. There, you'll get early access to the podcast as well as exclusive behind-the-scenes peeks and perks for as little as $1 a month. Sign up is quick and easy. Just swing on by to www.patreon.com/TFUINFO. Another way you can help us is by using our Amazon link, www.tfu.info/Amazon. Type that into your browser whenever you want to shop at Amazon, and a portion of what you spend will be contributed back to us. It's that easy. Finally, you don't become the world's longest running transforming toy archive without some help from other fans. We're always on the hunt for photos of figures and accessories we're missing from our pages. If you'd like to contribute, go to tfu.info/help for a list of what we need, or send an email to info@tfu.info. tfu.info, the Alpha Trion and Omega Prime of transforming toys. Now, back to the show.
Recognize that music? Yeah, we're back. And we're back at another carnival for issue 46. Same creative team as before, entitled H and Car-Nage. And I'm very tempted to say Carnage, mainly because of how this is hyphenated. Both of these words are exemplified as puns, with cash spelled with a $sign and carnage hyphenated to emphasize the car portion. I know I am emphasizing the Nage portion because I'm thinking of Disney's Don Cornage. And this one features the same creative team as the previous issue. Covers features the Roadjammers as seen through an Autobot's legs, and this is drawn by Frank Springer. Now, the UK covers for this also, again, 2 different covers, issues 192 and 193. 192 by Stephen Baskerville shows Fizzle, Sizzle, and Backstreet's headshots on a table and a Morningstar there. Speaking of which, the biker in the US cover also has a Morningstar, and turns out there's a bounty on them. In issue 193 shows Fizzle in car mode being blasted by a member of the Roadjammers. What does that all mean? We'll get into it. Like I said, recognize that music? That's because we start once again at a carnival, and there's this bounty hunter, and he shows up at a game, a robot shooting booth, and instead of, playing the game, he shoots the robot's props with a shotgun. This guy's named Burnout, and he is the first member of the Roadjammers that we're going to meet. Next up is Randy Roadhog Horton, and he's at a monster truck rally. No Bigfoot at this monster truck rally, as far as I know. He blows up a robot car like it's practice for the Transformers, unaware that there's a jackpot waiting for him beyond the arena. Next up, we meet Skunge and Felix. That's Skunge, S-K-U-N-G, and then some dude named Felix, two tech wizards cleaning up at a sleazy motel where they're making gadgets, right? They all end up in New York City.
New York City!
Where they converge at a place called the Z Foundation and that company's headquarters. We meet three humans, Mr. K, Mr. B, and Mr. L. Sounds like Reservoir Dogs, doesn't it? It sounds like they should be arguing over whether or not you tip. But it turns out these guys are offering $50,000 per Transformer, and to go with it, they are offering some jamming technology to neutralize the Transformers' ability to transform. And thus, the Roadjammers are born. Now, elsewhere on Cybertron, we have some Autobot prisoners who are being guarded by the Firecons, who, oddly enough, we've met in the UK book already. And we've also met the two of these, at least, Fizzle and Sizzle. I don't think we've met Backstreet. We've met a bunch of these Autobots before in the UK book as well. Now, these prisoners are given their energy and weapons back. So the Autobots are marched to the space bridge where they are sent basically right to the Roadjammers, who quickly take care of them. And it does make the Roadjammers kind of suspicious because they feel like maybe they're the ones getting scammed. So they come up with a plan. They sneak into a locked parking structure at the Z Foundation, and the Decepticon headmasters are there just hanging out. Mr. K shows up, and they don't even bother trying to hide it because we find out that Mr. Z is actually Lord Zarek, head of Scorponok and leader of this band of Decepticons. And then Mr. K, Mr. B, and Mr. L are Decepticon Nebulans in Kreb, Briscoe, and Locos, the heads of the newer headmaster Decepticons, and they're all there. So there, the Nebulans combine with their Decepticon bodies, but Felix has made adjustments to jam them as well by doubling the power of the jammers, allowing to work on two robots at once. So they each work on one Autobot and one Decepticon. Just then, Scorponok arrives, as Zarek has revealed himself, and Felix has also made the jammers into radio controls for the Decepticons and Autobots, which he uses to fight off Scorponok. Zarek had a backup plan. He has an anti-jammer, which he uses to destroy the other jammers, not the road jammers. I don't know why they're called road jammers. They're more like bot jammers, aren't they? And freeing the Autobots and Decepticons from Felix's control. The Autobots escape, and they help the road jammers with them before the Decepticons can attack them. But Felix, he is happy here because he thinks he can reverse engineer some of this technology and use it for future Decepticon defeating use. Now, again, this is another one of those standalone stories. We have some humans who, I don't know why we left it hanging with the Roadjammers. We will never see them again. So yes, this is the last time we will see any of the Roadjammers again. So even though they left it open for this jamming technology to be reverse engineered in the 40-year history of Transformers and the 36 that has pretty much passed since this issue, we will not, I repeat, we will not see the Roadjammers again. Maybe in the future, who knows? Now, I did mention that some of these characters appeared in the UK versions of the comics, mainly the Sparkabots, the Firecons, and they actually went ahead and changed some of the dialogue in those books to reflect the fact that we have seen some of these folks before. And that takes us to issue number 47. Now, remember, I said most of these are standalone stories. Well, this one is a standalone story, but it's also part one of a very important Marvel US storyline called the Underbase Saga. Now, this story is important. We'll cover this next time we do Marvel US comics because I think the next couple parts are really important. But this one here is a lead-in, but it does live on its own. So this issue is entitled Club Con, and we're diving into the Decepticons' latest scheme. There's a desert island that's been turned into a tourist resort. And if you haven't caught on yet, it's the island that Buster Witwicky was stuck on a few issues back. And the Decepticons have launched a TV commercial. They're offering people to come to Club Con and hang out and party with the Decepticons, human guests and everything. And Optimus and the Autobots catch wind that Ratbat has just turned the secret island into Club Con. and figures it's more than just a getaway spot. It's probably a front for some sort of Decepticon operation, right? Because there's no way they're going legit and opening a hotel. So he sends Blaster undercover to investigate. Now, back in Portland, Oregon, we catch up with Sparkplug Witwicky and Buster's abandoned girlfriend, Jessie. They are fretting over Buster being missing and are trying to just kind of catch up about things. And then who shows up but Blaster in his transport, which is egg-shaped. It's very bizarre. It looks like a plastic Easter egg. For as cool as Blaster is, he needs a better ride. So he shows up and he realizes he needs a human sidekick to blend in. So he figured he'd talk to the folks that he knows. And Jessie is quick to step up, so much so that she kind of steps on Sparkplug as not being resort material. So they head over to Club Con, where they're greeted by none other than Starscream. No one notices that Blaster is just a radio and not an Autobot, and Jessie decides to hit the beach while Blaster goes undercover. But Jessie decides she wants to do a little snorkeling and see what she can find on her own. So while she's diving underwater, she stumbles upon the Seacons in the water and finds their underwater base. Inside, she finds Buster being held captive. So it does turn out that the Decepticons are after some sort of ancient Autobot intel hidden inside a sunken pirate treasure chest. Yes, of course they are. Now, Blaster did not want her going undercover. And when he finds out about this, he's kind of in a bind because he can't rescue Buster without blowing his cover. But he learns that these ancient Autobot mini cassettes have an encrypted message from Cybertron. So it's a race against time as Jessie snatches the tapes from the Seacons. But they catch on fast, Rat-Bats onto them, and sends the Seacons after Jessie and Blaster, who get into a fight and then make a daring escape. But Blaster decides he's going to keep these tapes safe. And instead of ejecting them from his chest, and these tapes being Rain Dance and Grand Slam, by the way, two toy characters in cassette mode who will remain in cassette mode. And he spits them out from his mouth into the ocean. Blaster takes a shot in the back, but he and Jessie get the heck out of there, but without the cassettes. So what do these cassettes have? What do they mean? Well, we'll find that out a bit more in future episodes. Now, it kind of blazed through this, and not going too much into detail in terms of bits and pieces of this story. I did have the special treat of being on another podcast to talk about this. Now, if you know me, I like to do guest appearances, and one of the shows I've guest appeared on recently is Transformers Chronicles, which is a great podcast. It's part of the Longbox Crusade Network, and we covered this particular issue. So I want to give you a little taste of that as well. I do implore you to go listen to this episode. It's a really good one. It is episode, I believe it's episode 47. They do keep their numbers consistent with the issue number. So please check it out. Here's a clip, a couple more of my observations from this episode. I had a great time being on Transformers Chronicles, and I do hope you give it a listen.
We are going to transition now to talk about who had the touch, where we talk about which character in the book stood out the most, be it Autobot, Decepticon, or human. Pat, who do you think had the touch?
Boy, this one's hard. I'm tossed between two, and I'm just going to go right off the top of my head. You mentioned it. It's Jessie. I think she had, the woman of action in this one. I think, if she didn't do what she did, there really wouldn't be much to this issue, or wouldn't really be much to the story, because they probably never would have got the tapes, or at least figured out there's something not right with that Club Con going on here.
And I like that she did something that was just, you talk about very common sense to a human being, maybe not to a robot. Like, I'm assuming like they sort of roamed the base and was like, okay, this has to be where Buster is. And Blaster was like, why? It's like, it's the only human-sized door. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, that makes sense. That's bloody brilliant, to be honest with you. Anthony, who had the touch to you?
Oh, I had this. I wrote this. This is like one of the first things I wrote down. It is Jessie, and it's for all those reasons you guys cited. But for my particular taste, it's because she had the touch because she talked Sparkplug out of getting a free vacation and giving it to her. He's like, "Yeah, I'll go." She's like, "No, hold on. I could go."
And not only that, she negged him too. It's like, yeah, I think this island's for people who aren't, how do I say this nicely? Freaking old and decrepit. Like, hey, oh, I said it nicely. Like, no, you didn't. You just prefaced it nicely. Yeah, she did. She talked her way into a vacation. And she got some snorkeling. She got some thrills with the robots. She got to hang out with the robot. So, yeah, I'm with y'all. We'll go 3 for 3. I agree. Like, Jesse was the person who advanced the action. If it were not for Jesse, it is very unlikely Blaster would have found Buster. To be fair to Blaster, like, even when he, like, dropped onto Sparkplug Witwicky's doorstep, like, he was like, okay, we're going to recon the island. We like to use you because you're human. And, oh, yeah, we might be able to find your son. He never promised it, to be fair to Blaster. Yeah. And then just very, very quickly, as another plot point that I wanted to mention, and a kind of another nod to Bob Budiansky, is Sparkplug said nearly the identical thing to Blaster that he said to the last robots that came to his door. Last robots came to the door, it's like, piss off. Get out of here. I want nothing to do with you. And in this case, he's like, I already said I don't want anything to do with you guys, but I'd shake the hands with the devil himself to get my son back. And I'm like, that's good characterization. And that's very good continuity by Bob. So just a quick nod of the Captain Bob.
Now, I didn't talk about the covers for this issue, and I want to do that now before we head to break. The cover features Jesse in a skimpy bikini. We'll talk a bit about Jesse coming up, being attacked by the Seacons with a text that says "Assault of the Savage Seacons." This is actually another one of these really great mid-Marvel run covers. And again, drawn by Bob Budiansky. Lots of detail, too, on the Seacons, where there are multiple of them attacking her in the water. Now, the UK versions of these, one has an original cover, one has a slightly different cover, and that is the first one, issue 194 of the UK book, which features Jesse in a different word bubble that says, wait, can't we chew this over first? And has the same art, but colored differently. Jesse's got a green bikini on, and it's flipped. It's completely horizontally flipped. So in the UK, the Seacons drive on the wrong side of the road. Now, part 2 of this is in issue 195 of the UK book. It features the title Tape Scrape and has Blaster being shot in the back by Snaptrap while he drops Rain Dance and Grand Slam into the ocean. This art is by Stephen Baskerville, and again, a rare appearance by Rain Dance and Grand Slam. And with that, we could talk a little bit about what we're going to cover next time on Transformers University. It's an important episode. It is episode 150. What will it be? Well, I'll give you a hint after the break.
Thanks for listening to the show. Stick around to hear what's coming up next episode, but first, I want to fill you in on a few ways you can stay in touch with the show. Want to be on the show? Leave us a voicemail at 702-763-4838. That's 702-POD-4TFU. Or send an email to info@TFU.INFO. Be sure to catch us on Twitter at TFU_info and on Facebook and Instagram under the username TFU.INFO, all one word. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TFU.INFO, where we post all of our podcasts plus special video segments, reviews, and live coverage of Transformers-related events such as New York Toy Fair and New York Comic-Con. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please visit us at www.tfu.info, the world's longest-running transforming toy archive.
And with that, I'm going to wrap up episode 149 of Transformers University. You're probably wondering, what do we got in store for 150, right? Every 50th episode is something important. And what would be important within this frame of time? Well, I'm going to give you a few hints, just like I did last time. Episode 50 was the first part of our Transformers the movie coverage. Episode 100 was the return of Optimus Prime. Episode 150, we're staying in America. We're staying with Optimus Prime. We're going to meet a new human friend and ally. And you're just going to have to wait until next episode to find out just exactly what I'm talking about. Until then, I want to tell you once again how to get in touch with me. Twitter TFU_info at TFU_info on Twitter. TFU.INFO, all one word, just about everywhere else. Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube, TikTok, Mastodon. We are all over the social media as TFU.INFO, all one word. Of course, you can find us on the web, www.tfu.info, the world's longest running transforming toy archive. And finally, find us on Patreon, patreon.com/TFU.INFO. Again, love if you signed up. It helps the show, it helps the site, it helps everything we do. And if you don't want to sign up and you don't want to actually spend any more money than you normally would, I do also recommend TFU.info/Amazon. That'll take you to Amazon.com, and then anything you buy there, Amazon kicks back a few pennies towards TFU.info as a referral. It's a great way to help. It's also on all of our links on the archive. Anything that links back to Amazon does help us out. So if you're just clicking free, eventually you'll buy something you need, and that'll help us out as well. And with that, we will wrap up this episode. Once again, I am your host, Anthony Brucali, owner, operator, madman behind TFU.info. Until next time, see ya.